Do not answer the transmission. The order echoed across the bridge of the Galactic Council flagship. Supreme Chancellor Varel stood motionless as the emergency beacon flashed for the 19th time. The signal came from the Helios system, home to over 200 billion citizens. Its artificial star was failing. A nervous communication officer looked up. "Chancellor, the humans are offering assistance." Varel didn't even turn around. "I know. They claim they can restart the star." "I know. They're requesting permission to enter council space." Silence. Finally, "No." The officer hesitated. "Sir, our scientists estimate complete stellar collapse in 94 hours. I heard the report. They say only the humans have ever repaired a star." Varel slowly faced the bridge. "And whose fault is that?" No one answered, because everyone knew. 5 years earlier, the Galactic Council had unanimously outlawed human engineers. Nobody intended to ban humans, only human engineering. There was a difference, at least. The Council believed there was. The decision came after what history politely called the 12 incidents. There had actually been hundreds, but 12 were impossible to ignore. A human mechanic repaired a damaged cargo freighter. Using kitchen utensils, another restarted a fusion reactor. With a microwave, a mining colony lost gravity. A human plumber fixed it. No one ever understood how. One engineer accidentally increased an engine's efficiency by 300%. When investigators asked what modification he'd made, he shrugged. "I hit it." A research station spent 6 months trying to reproduce the result. They couldn't. Another human looked at the report, walked over, hit the engine in exactly the same place. It worked again. Then came the Dyson incident. Human contractors had been hired to perform routine maintenance on a partially completed Dyson ring. Their instructions were Dyson ring. Their AMs were simple, AM-damaged solar collectors. Nothing else. 3 weeks later, the project manager returned. The damaged collectors had been replaced. The power output had doubled. The structure had become self-repairing. 3 new shipyards existed. The ring now produced drinking water. Nobody had asked for any of that. The chief engineer simply smiled. "While we had it open," that phrase became legendary. Entire governments feared hearing it. The council held an emergency session. "This cannot continue. They ignore specifications. They violate safety regulations. They invent technologies nobody understands. They never follow approved procedures." The human ambassador politely raised one hand. "We do follow procedures." The council president frowned. "You welded a reactor core using a coffee machine. It worked." "That is not the point." The ambassador smiled. "It usually is." The vote was unanimous. No human could legally perform engineering work within council space. Every construction project, every repair, every maintenance contract, cancelled. Human companies quietly packed their tools. They didn't argue, didn't protest. They simply left. As one old engineer walked away from the largest shipyard in the galaxy, he smiled at the apprentice beside him. "They'll call." The apprentice looked confused. "When?" The old man glanced back once. When something important breaks." 5 years later, something important broke. Very, very important. Helios wasn't a natural star. It had been built thousands of years earlier. The Council's ancestors had learned to manufacture stars for systems lacking one. The technology was considered impossible to improve. Every civilization copied the original design. Every artificial star in known space used the same core architecture. Then, Without warning, Helios began cooling. Its fusion chambers became unstable. Energy production fell by 2%, then 5, then 12. Entire planets entered permanent winter. Billions evacuated. The galaxy's greatest scientists worked around the clock. Nothing helped. Every repair made things worse. Finally, someone whispered the forbidden sentence. Should we ask the humans? The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to say yes, no one could say no. Earth answered within 6 minutes, not because it was nearby, because someone had already read the emergency reports online. The human representative joined the meeting carrying a coffee mug. He listened for exactly 30 seconds, then asked, "Has anyone checked the cooling manifold?" The council stared. "The what?" "The manifold. There isn't one. There should be. There has never been one." The human frowned. "Well, that's probably your problem." Permission was reluctantly granted. One ship, one engineer, nothing more. The vessel that arrived looked embarrassingly ordinary. No weapons, no escorts, no advanced technology. Just faded white paint. And one sentence written across the hull. Asterisk, Murphy's Repair and Salvage. The airlock opened. Out stepped an old woman. Gray hair, oil-stained coveralls, steel toolbox name tag. Asterisk. Evelyn Murphy. She looked at the dying star, then at the council officials. Well, who broke it? The galaxy's greatest physicists spent 4 days explaining the problem. She listened politely, occasionally nodded, asked where the nearest coffee machine was. Then, without another word, she climbed into the maintenance tunnels surrounding the stellar core. 8 hours passed. No updates, no report, no scientific discussions. Just hammering, welding. Occasional laughter. At one point, someone distinctly heard, "Well, that's not supposed to be connected to that." The council scientists panicked. What is she doing? Nobody knew. Hour 12. The lights across the station flickered. The star brightened, then dimmed again. Emergency alarm sounded. Scientists rushed toward the control room. Energy spike. Containment fluctuating. She's making it worse. Then the intercom activated. Evelyn's voice echoed calmly. "Could someone hand me the 13mm wrench?" Silence. A technician whispered, "What's a 13mm wrench?" 20 minutes later, she emerged, covered in grease, hair slightly burned, holding a melted metal bracket. She tossed it onto the conference table. "There." One scientist blinked. "What's that?" "The reason your star almost died." Another frowned. "That's impossible." "Why?" "Because that component doesn't exist in the design. It does now." Everyone looked confused. She sighed. "You've been repairing symptoms, not the vibration." "What vibration?" She smiled. "The one your sensors can't see." She walked to the main display, picked up a marker, ignored the holographic controls, started drawing. "This bracket resonates every 17 years. Eventually, it shakes, this connector loose." She tapped the broken metal. The connector shifts, heat builds. The star slowly chokes itself. A senior physicist crossed his arms. "We've modeled this reactor for centuries. You missed something. Impossible." Evelyn shrugged. "I've fixed tractors older than your civilization." Still unconvinced. The scientists checked. 3 hours later, one returned looking pale. "She's right." Another followed. "The vibrations exists." Another. "Our equations ignored mechanical fatigue." Another. "The original builders compensated manually. They never automated it." The room became silent. Thousands of years. Countless civilizations, millions of engineers, none had noticed, because none had listened to the machine. The Chancellor approached Evelyn quietly. "You saved 200 billion lives," she shrugged. "Just fixed a loose part. That part nearly destroyed a star." She smiled. "Everything important usually starts as a loose part." Before leaving, she opened her toolbox one last time. The council watched nervously. "What now?" "I'm making one improvement." "No, it's fine. You said that last time." "So, the last human who said that accidentally created faster-than-light farming equipment." She laughed. "Relax." 5 minutes later, the star's output increased by 40%, fuel efficiency doubled, maintenance intervals extended from 17 years to 100. The chief scientist stared at the numbers. "What did you do?" Evelyn closed the toolbox. "I added a drain hole." The council officially repealed the engineering ban the following morning. A new law replaced it. Osterrucht. Human engineers may perform maintenance without prior approval, provided they explain what they changed afterward. Human engineers requested one amendment. "We'll try." The council accepted because by then they understood. Human engineers didn't break the laws of physics. They simply treated them like helpful suggestions waiting to become better ideas. And throughout the galaxy, whenever an impossible machine refused to work, whenever a reactor failed, whenever a station began shaking, whenever an engine made a strange noise, someone inevitably asked the same question. "Has anyone called a human?" Because everyone already knew the answer. The repair would probably involve duct tape, 3 tools, 1 cup of coffee, and at least one sentence that terrified every non-human engineer in the galaxy. "While I had it open."